All right. Thank you so much for being here today. Say the time right after lunch can always be a challenge, but that's okay. If you need to get up and walk around just to stay awake, that's totally fine. I will not be offended. In fact, that's what we do in the military. If we're in the middle of a briefing and you're starting to nod, the best thing to do is just get up, go ahead, stand around the outside, walk around a little bit, and that is always preferred than falling asleep, because if you fall asleep, you can get in big trouble. I think that's what I recommend for you. I'll try to give you plenty of stories along the way and ask you some questions. And we can have a little bit of a conversation. If I do say something that's like, wait, what do you mean by that, Pastor? Just go ahead and raise your hand, and I'll try to address that as we go along. Sound good? All right. So, first thing I want to emphasize is, well, who am I, right? So, I am two things at once. I am a civilian pastor. I'm pastor at Bethlehem Lutheran Church and School in Fairborn, Ohio, which is in the Dayton area. And so I am a full-time pastor there and absolutely love it. I've been there for about 9 years and been a pastor in the Ohio district for 17 years already. Man, time flies. And at the same time, I'm also a reserve chaplain for the United States Air Force. The Air Force, in their infinite wisdom, even though I have a base, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base is basically 5 minutes from my house, I am actually a reservist that is attached to the 42nd Air Base Wing in Montgomery, Alabama. So the commute is a little bit of a distance, but we made a good arrangement that I only have to go down there to travel maybe once or twice a year and kind of just lump it all into one big trip most of the time, so that, it's almost like my own annual mission trip, if you will. And then I can come back to Ohio and serve at Bethlehem. So that's kind of my dual nature. And I've been at this about 5 years. I'm in my 5th year as a chaplain and the rank of captain. All right, so wanted to just, yes?
Why don't you say the arrangement when you're away, the substitute pastor?
Yeah, we can get into some of the practical things too. Is that so when I'm away, I'm very blessed to have a really great group of elders that do step up and take care of a lot of pastoral visitation and care on behalf of the church. And we also have some retired pastors in our congregation who also kind of step up and provide for Sunday morning and for extreme cases. Because, for those of you who ever travel for business, how many of you have to travel for business? And especially over a long period of time. What usually happens when you travel for business over a long period of time? Something goes wrong, right? Something breaks, right? In the congregation, right? That's unfortunately, there might be some discipline issues going on at the school or at home. The garage door breaks in the middle of winter, and the Lord calls home some of our members while I am on duty away, right? And sometimes I do my best to still care for them from a distance, or by a lot of phone calls and video calls, but I do entrust the elders and the retired pastors to help out, especially in person. So yeah. All right, I want to get to know you just a little bit. Do we have any veterans in the audience here today? All right, thank you. Yeah. Any who are still active military? Okay, that's me. Who has a relative or a household member who is currently active duty or in the military right now? Yeah. Anyone still? Yeah. Those are my parents, by the way. So they'll claim me. Okay. How many of you are at a congregation that is near a base or military installation? Raise your hand. Okay. We got one here. Yep. How many of you from the Dayton area? Okay. Now, how many of you not from the Dayton area? Where at? Where are you at? Yeah.
Born and raised here in Columbus.
Okay. And there's a military installation nearby here.
We have Rickenbacker.
Oh, Rickenbacker, yeah. National Guard, yeah, National Guard, yes.
And then we have recruiting office for Chaplain Belly.
Yeah, so, yeah, this congregation has an active duty Navy. Go figure, right? Navy. In the middle of the state of Ohio, right? But for recruiting purposes. And he's a member of this congregation. Yeah. Lieutenant Commander Bell. Yeah. All right. Anyone else? Anywhere else not mentioned? Yeah. Parkersburg. Okay. National Guard.
I don't think so anymore. There's an armory, National Guard armory.
An armory. Okay. Very good. Yeah, I know there's another military installation in Youngstown. There's a Air National Guard or a traditional reserve unit up there for the Air Force in Youngstown. And I think that's pretty much it. There's also one in Springfield, Ohio, too. Toledo. Oh, yeah, that's right. Yes. Yeah, I'm not sure either. But, yeah, they're right with the Toledo Airport. Yeah.
There's an Army Guard.
And the Army Guard as well. Very good. All right. So which branches are you mostly connected to? We have Navy through, okay. Navy, all right. Air Force, all right. Okay, all right. So we'll have plenty of Army jokes for today. All right.
We take care of everybody.
We do. How many of you know a lot about military life? Even if you've never lived it, how many know a lot? Okay, I see that face. You're like, okay. More than I wanted to know. All right.
Question though.
Yeah.
I'm old. Military life when I was in it, I got a feeling it's the same as it is.
I think there are similarities and differences. Hopefully improvements, right? Hopefully improvements. But I think as you hear what I'm going to describe, you could probably say, oh, yeah, that's pretty much the same as when it was earlier. Or, oh, wow, things have improved. Or, Lord have mercy, things got worse. All right? Yeah, it'd be nice to know your take on that. How many of you know, maybe just a little bit about military life? Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. All right. How many of you want to know how to start a ministry to armed forces? Like, you're on behalf of your congregation here, and you're like, this is something that's really on my heart, on my mind. I feel like we should have something, and you don't really have anything yet. How many of you, like, for your congregation, you would like to engage in some way, shape, or form? Okay? How many of you already have something in place, but, you would love to see your congregation take some next steps, that you would like to see more? Anyone on that boat? Okay, we got one. Okay, all right. How many of you know if you are part of Operation Barnabas, like your congregation? Yeah.
Did you try rebooting your computer?
I'm not going to worry about it.
You said if you tried that,
It might work. Okay. Well, if we have time at the end, I got pictures. I might try that.
sorry.
That's fine. So, how many of you know if you have an Operation Barnabas chapter, or you are an Operation Barnabas congregation? How many of you know? I have a list. Now, I don't know how often this is updated, but technically, St. Timothy's in Huber Heights, New Hope, Newark, Fairlawn, Akron, Bethel, Willowick, Risen Christ, Springfield, Emmanuel, Lima, Gloria Dei, Hudson, St. Paul, Napoleon, and actually a chapter, Atonement, Columbus, Emmanuel, Lancaster, St. John, Garfield Heights, Trinity, Toledo, Emmanuel, Hamler, Royal Redeemer in North Royalton, Christ our Savior in Defiance. In defiance of what? And St. Paul, Westlake. Yeah, that's the list that is. I don't know how updated that list is, but accordingly, like at one time or another, those congregations have joined Operation Barnabas. Okay, so if I called your name and you didn't raise your hand, you're like, oh, I guess we are already, surprise, right? And so I guess if that's the case and you're really interested, let's talk about getting reactivated. Okay, so that's my encouragement for you. So here's my overview. What I want to cover is why minister to members of the armed forces. I'm going to talk a little bit about the nature of this ministry and some of the things that our military faces today, good, bad, and ugly. We'll talk a little bit about how to get involved as a congregation, especially if you are nearby a base or installation, or even if you're not by a base or installation. And then I would like to kind of finish with a little bit about Operation Barnabas, which is from the Synod Office, Ministry to Armed Forces. And I'll talk a little bit about that. All right, here we go. First question I want to address is why, right? Why get involved? Why do you want to get involved? Why should we minister to those who are in the armed forces? And the scriptural basis, I think, the best is Matthew chapter 28, verses 16 through 20, right? It's part of the Great Commission, right? Jesus says, go and make disciples of all nations, right? And all nations, does that include people who are old? How about young? Male? Female? Ohio State fans? Michigan fans? Some need it more than others, and I'll let you determine that. Civilians? Military? Yes, right? We all need Jesus, right? And Jesus says to make disciples of all nations, right? So yes, military are included in the all nations. And I think what's really interesting about being in the military is you are American, right? In the United States forces, right? You're American. But at the same time, the legal aspect of being and serving in the military is also international sometimes, and you're kind of in the middle of limbo, right? And so it's really important to have a home. And what greater home than in Jesus, right? What greater home than in the home of our Heavenly Father, right? And heirs of eternal life. And to know that that doesn't change no matter where I or my family have to go, right? Or have to serve, right? So, yeah, that's why. I think there's also some really great examples of faith regarding people who are military, even in the Bible, right? Can anyone think of an example? Pop quiz. David, yeah, David was a commander of the army. Roman centurion. Which one?
The one who had the sick servant.
Yeah, and that is my favorite example of military in the scriptures, right? It's the greatest confession of faith. I mean, they're all great, right? But, the fact that he says, I'm a man under authority and I have authority. I'm not worthy to have you come under my roof, but just say the word, Lord, right? He trusted that much in the command of the Lord Jesus, right? In order for his servant to be healed, right? That's amazing. And of course, who was the one who said, truly you are the Son of God when Jesus was on the cross, right? The centurion, right? Good. Another reason why minister to armed forces, I'm going to kind of get into the personal reason, is one of the people who really inspired me to consider this was a chaplain by the name of Daniel Gard, Pastor Daniel Gard. How many of you have heard of him before? He used to be the president at Concordia University, Chicago. He was also a faculty member at the Fort Wayne Seminary. He was retired as a rear admiral, so pretty high up in the ranks. And he was a great professor when I was at seminary, and he would start every lecture with why we should consider becoming chaplains. And I was so inspired by his reasons that I would go home at the end of the day, go talk with my wife, and I said, hey, you'll never guess. Professor Gard talked about, the great reasons why we should consider, becoming chaplains. And the first thing she says is, no. and that was her story for many years. Many, many years. Is no. Hey, I talked with the recruiter. No. And it wasn't until God called me to be pastor in a military town that it became a maybe. And then we brought over a chaplain who is a reservist, just like me, who was attached to Wright-Patterson. We brought him over for dinner. We asked him all the hard questions. He leaves, closes the door, and wife looks at me and says, well, if you want to do this, you better do it now. And I'm like, is that permission? So, yeah. And Pastor Gard's main point was that the military members and their families who are Missouri Synod Lutheran, need Missouri Synod chaplains. Like, they need you. They need a Missouri Synod chaplain who understands them, who can give them communion without having to worry about, all the closed communion issues that you might have heard in the first part today. Another reason is the military as a whole needs Missouri Synod chaplains. What we offer is so powerful. Our doctrine, again, we're biased, right, is second to none, right? We are amazing at, law and gospel, two kingdoms, right? Confession and absolution and how that's important. Word and sacrament, right? These are so valuable to members of the military, whether they realize it or not, right? Or when they realize it, they're like, where have you been all my life, right? It's that important. Also, it's important from the military themselves. Why get involved in ministry to military? It's part of the beliefs of the military that there's actually, when it talks about fitness, right? If I talk about being fit, right? Fit for battle, what's the first thing you think of? Six-pack abs, right? Muscles, right? Really thick arms, right? But actually, that's only part of it, right? Readiness and spiritual, it also is a spiritual, right? There is a spiritual aspect that allows our warriors today to persevere and to have courage even in the possibility of death that only spirituality provides, right? Or as Christians, we would say that only Christ provides, right? We offer something amazing. And it's also officially in a lot of contingency plans. So a lot of military chapels today will have language like, if the feces were to hit the oscillating machine, how are we going to provide for the spiritual care for military families if all of our chaplains are dead or deployed, right? Where are they going to get help? Where are they going to hear of Christ? Where are they going to be welcomed into a community? It's the local congregations. It's the local clergy nearby a military base and installation that will be called upon to make that difference. So a lot of the chapels and installation, like think about maybe visiting or having someone visit up in Toledo and say, hey, how are you doing? Do you need more ministry support? Do you need a local pastor? Do you need a local congregation to do something? And they will a lot of times say, yes, we need you. And you have an in, right? You have an in. So that's why. All right? Now I want to talk a little bit about what it's like, right? What's the nature of ministry to armed forces and military? And I will give the short answer, it depends, right? It depends on the nature of the unit, right? There are different branches that have different cultures. There's active duty, which is your full-time. There's traditional reserve or National Guard. There's veterans. There's the families of the military. And there's also opportunities for non-local support. So I'm just going to touch base on each of those, okay? So, active duty. Our veterans, were you active duty? No? Reserve? Okay. Okay. Well, retired. Okay. So, active duty usually means full-time, right? And it's usually a national thing, right? And typically, every 3 to 4 years, guess what? You go somewhere else, right, for your progression. And so the whole family, right, may get picked up and moved every 3 to 4 years. What could possibly go wrong in that situation, right? Lots, right? Also, that member may be deployed 0 to 2 times during a particular assignment, right? And so the best comparison I can think of is it almost feels like a campus ministry, only but with people who are older and have more life experience, right? You know, campus ministry, right? You get the college students coming in for 3 to 4 years, and God willing, are an active part of the congregation. You love them, they love you, right? It's a wonderful support structure for both. And then they go, right? And then they go, right? It's a very similar with active duty. Traditional Reserve, National Guard. They typically stay in a one unit much longer than your active duty. They might even be there for their entire career. Maybe. They usually reside in the state or in the area near the installation or base because they have to commute. As the commercial grows, 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks a year, right? And so because of that regular checking in, they will live oftentimes in that state or in that area just because you're going there all the time. Some might even live near your congregation, right? You might be surprised. And yes, they are subject to mobilization and deployments. So a lot of times they get up and go to other places for 6 to 12 months. Right? Veterans, right? The thing about veterans is not every veteran is seen, valued, or appreciated, right? And there are various needs that our veterans have today. Maybe a sense of community or companionship, hope, healing, or just a listening ear, right? And I'm going to ask and open up, does your congregation recognize or serve veterans in any way? Raise your hand if your congregation. What do you do? What do you do? Okay, so let's speak for Zion.
Around the Veterans Day, we have a congregational potluck and then a presentation thanking the veterans.
Nice. That's great. That's great. Anyone else besides Zion? Yep. Go ahead.
Better at summarize.
Okay, very good.
Okay, well, our church does basically the same thing, and they love gathering everyone together, and they had the choir come out, and the boys' choirs come out.
Mhm.
They have the buglers come out,
Oh.
flag procession, the whole thing, and invite veterans from all over the area.
So does your congregation sponsor it or take part in it?
They sponsor it.
Wow.
And they do all the inviting, provide a wonderful breakfast for everyone.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Yeah, very good. Thanks for sharing.
Also does sweet care packages that send them out to the military.
All right, so when I get deployed, you make sure you get my name, right? That'd be great. Awesome. Families, right? I think families is probably one of the most important aspect of this. We recognize our military as like, thank you for your service, thank you for your sacrifice. But speaking as a reservist, I would say that the biggest sacrifice is my family, right? Again, what happens when I move away? What happens when I go away? Stuff breaks, right? Guess has to deal with it by herself, my wife, right? Actually, Dr. Gard has a story that he shares, is that most time when people think one of the things that his child had to do. And what do you remember about September 11th? And when kids were asked to draw a picture, most kids will draw a picture, well, not anymore, right? Because they might not even were alive, right? They would draw a picture of what? The buildings, right? In a cloud of smoke or flame, right? Or an airplane, right? His kids actually had a picture of Dad leaving, right? That they remember most about September 11th was the fact that their dad got mobilized, right? And that had a profound effect, on their development, that he was mobilized 2 times pretty quick, during that time. Yeah, knowing that sometimes that member may not come back the same. And again, our active duty, they are pulled away from their support structure, their family, their friends, their church, every 3 to 4 years. Right? And that can be hard, especially during the formative years in a child, right? But there's also some opportunities for non-local sponsorship, right? I mentioned care packages. Maybe it's for a congregation member or a son of the congregation or a relative of a member of the congregation who's deployed, and you want to share the love of Christ with them and their friends and fellow military workers up wherever they are. And I think that's great. Regular correspondence, a note of encouragement. Missouri Synod also has an Adopt a Chap program. Anyone familiar with that? No? Okay. Well, you can adopt a chaplain and have regular correspondence with the chaplain and their families, and kind of like how we support our missionaries at large. And so, yeah, it's another opportunity. Or a regular feature in the prayers of the church. How many of your congregations pray for people who are in military, either in general or by name on a regular basis? Right? And you can define regular by quarterly, monthly, even weekly, right? And I think that's fantastic. I think that's fantastic. I think I've already mentioned a lot of the challenges, right? I think I just want to highlight just a few. Isolation and loneliness, right? A lot of times our military are pulled away from their family support, right? Sometimes they might get blessed in the fact that they are assigned nearby family support, and that's great, but that doesn't always happen, right? That separation during deployments, perhaps that might be a time for a meal train, for while mom or dad is deployed away from family, kind of like what our congregations do for, fellow brothers and sisters who lost a loved one after a death, or when someone in the congregation has a baby, right? And sometimes we do meals for them. Maybe doing the same for military families who are deployed, right? Let's see here. I think another thing is sometimes because of all that change, there might be some difficulty in settling down or taking an active part in the congregation, right? Because maybe they've had a bad experience of one congregation, or it's just really hard to say goodbye and don't want to get too involved because it's going to be painful when the orders come to go to the next place, right? So yeah, they're kind of here one day and gone the next, especially active duty, right? And that's hard. Like that's one of the hardest things at Bethlehem is I get to meet some really great families, and then I have to say goodbye to them, right? And that is very difficult. But there's also some blessings, right? The members that do take the plunge are awesome members within the congregation. They might be really good at evangelism or bringing people to church because they have these rich, deep theological conversations with their coworkers, and or they notice something different about that particular member that they're like, I want to go where you're going, right? And so yeah, they will bring a lot of non-churched or de-churched people with them to church. Committee work, give them a task and they'll do it, right? I think that's probably one of the best things, especially if time is not helpful or on their side. Yeah, talented servants, right? Whether it's in music, security, business, structure, communications, trustees. Yeah, there might be some opportunities for service in that regard, and they will be a wonderful blessing to your congregation. All right. I'm going to keep on moving a little bit to the how to get involved. All right. So here are some things that to keep in mind if you want to be involved in this kind of ministry. What can we do as a congregation? And the number one thing you can do is be an awesome congregation, right? Be a solid congregation centered in the Word and sacraments, right? That's what they need, right? Military members and their families need your congregation. In the Lutheran Church, we have a blessing of orderly worship, right? They understand order. They understand structure, right? All their important events are word for word, like scripted, right? And they recognize that, our worship for the most part is very, rigorous and very routine and beautiful, right? And it's orderly, right? This is a good thing. Rigorous Bible study and catechism instruction. Military members ask some really hard questions about faith, about God, about life, about morality, right? Because they're put in some very difficult situations, and they need someone to ask questions, to dialogue with, right? Whether that is with a men's Bible study or the regular Bible study on Sunday morning, or with pastor, to really, really engage in some very difficult situations. And your pastors are really good at that, right? And some of you are too, right? That's what we can offer. Pastoral elder member visitation, again, to kind of help with the loneliness and isolation, to bring that sense of belonging. That's what our congregations have to offer. All right. Another thing that we can do, practically speaking, is, we've mentioned a little bit about a program, prayers, some other things that we might be able to offer our military and their families is, how many of you have a traditional Lutheran school at your congregation, right? There is an opportunity to become recognized as a military-friendly school called Purple Star or Purple Star designation. And especially if you're not even by a military installation, that would set your school apart. And it's a wonderful opportunity to be a servant for military and their families if you do have, some in your area that might want your school. Some churches also have like a homeschool co-op or a micro school where, homeschool families come together. There are some military to this day that because of all that change back and forth and inconsistency between, school districts, depending on where they're going, being able to have a consistent, education for the kids, right, is homeschooling does become a viable option to them. And so maybe our congregations might consider doing a homeschool co-op. We have one in our area in Huber Heights, the town next to us. And I already mentioned a few others. Another thing that's kind of thinking outside the box is partnering with the chapel. Okay, partnering with the chapel that's at the base, that's at the military installation. And at Maxwell, we actually had outside congregations do vacation Bible school because we don't have enough staff, right? Actually, the chapel staff was in charge of making sure everything is available and safe for children, but it's actually the congregations that come in that bring their youth and adults to actually do the hands-on teaching for vacation Bible school. So you might get anywhere between, 40 and 200 kids, and free access, to preach the gospel and to teach God's word in that situation. Or to volunteer at chapel events, right? They have meals every once in a while, or open fairs, or you can come in and get a table for free, and you can share a word about your congregation and what you do, or offer some kind of service. Those are available to you in those events. And again, a lot of chapels are moving toward this model. So that's something that, if you're by a military installation, you might want to look into. All right, any pastors in this room? All right. If you are a pastor and you have a military member in your congregation, if they invite you to do an invocation, do it. It's the coolest thing in the world, where, with a promotion or retirement, where they can have their pastor come in as a guest and offer an opening prayer. And it's great. And you get access to some really great people and have some good conversation before and after that ceremony, because there's usually snacks afterwards, maybe if it's a Friday afternoon, maybe even beer, and it's a great time. It's a great time. And they're very happy that you come. And give them solid pastoral care, right? Law and gospel, word and sacrament, private confession, absolution, maybe marriage or pre-marriage counseling, right? Because they're in that kind of life stage. And that's something that we can offer. So, yeah. And I feel weird giving a pitch to one person. If you want to have if your pastor or whoever wants to have unparalleled access to young people who have lots of spiritual questions, if you or your pastor wants to get paid for professional development, if finances are tight to provide for health insurance for your pastor, you may want to consider becoming a chaplain. It's a wonderful opportunity. There are challenges, don't get me wrong. My favorite hobby is now government paperwork. So as a reserve chaplain, that's just my life right now. But I love the congregation too much. I love God's call to serve Bethlehem Lutheran Church and School too much to go active duty. Like, I want to serve both. And being a reserve chaplain does provide that opportunity. So you're not losing your pastor if your pastor chooses to do this. Unless he goes active duty, then yeah, you are losing your pastor for that. But no, I think it's a great, wonderful experience. And I've learned a lot over the last 5 years. They pay me to learn how to do counseling, right? And so it was really nice is that actually became a benefit to our school. You know, as kids come in and have some very rough situations at home, and I can provide on-site counseling for the children. That's something that the Air Force has invested in me, and I can give back to my congregation school. So it's a great opportunity. All right, for the few minutes left, Operation Barnabas. So I'm going to just give handouts at the end of class that if you want a piece of paper, it's yours. And if you don't want a piece of paper, that's totally fine. So all you need to know is LCMS.org, right, the Synod website. And if you just find a national mission, right, there is a Ministry to Armed Forces, or LCMS.org/Operation Barnabas. And again, at the end, if you're really interested, I've got a paper that can lead you to where that is, okay? And so there are two opportunities. You can be an Operation Barnabas congregation. And what that means is 3 things they ask. You pray for military members on a regular basis, right? Whether that's weekly, monthly, quarterly, right? And again, many of you raised your hands, right? You're already doing this. Congratulations. You're a third of the way there. Recognizing military members in their churches, right? And a lot of you raised your hands. Guess what? You're 2/3 there to becoming an Operation Barnabas congregation. And then the third is to celebrate Armed Forces Sunday or some event of your choosing to recognize or serve military members and their families. So based on your responses, you have already qualified to become an Operation Barnabas congregation. Let's give you a hand. The only thing you need to do is just make it official, right? Go on the website, have a point person, right? And then you're part of that network. You can share your ideas with them, and they can share ideas with you, right? That's the encouragement part. And if you look on the pillar back here, this is the best I have ever seen. You guys here at Zion, you have set a wonderful model of, recognizing the military members within your congregation with a picture and a write-up. That is fantastic. As I say, you're not required to go that length, right? I mean, I've known congregations that might share pictures or that might share a blurb or it has a nice list with a nice display, and that's good too, right? That's kind of what we have at Bethlehem. But that is fantastic. That,
Sherry Palmer, tell her he said that.
yeah, fantastic. But yeah, all you got to do is you already qualify as a congregation. Or as a Operation Barnabas chapter. And what that entails would be engaging military families even outside the church, right? That you're involved in something where you're engaging military families outside of your own walls, not members of your congregation, or not just members of your congregation. Or you're seeking out veteran organizations, military units, other nonprofit organizations that serve the military, right? That you meet on a regular basis intentionally, right? Whether that's monthly or quarterly. And the nice thing about chapters, you can be a congregation or a group of congregations. Did anyone go to the Synod Convention? Synod Convention. I was going to show a video, but I'm just going to reference it. There's actually a congregation in the Tucson area that pools with other Missouri Synod churches, and they are an Operation Barnabas chapter. And if you go on the website and go to Operation Barnabas, I think they've got that congregation video there. It's like a 4-minute video, and it is fantastic what they're doing. And I think that would be fantastic. And so here's my challenge. Every congregation that is already doing those basic things that I just talked about, right? The praying for military members on a regular basis, recognizing military members in your congregation, and celebrating Armed Forces Sunday or something like that every year. If you are already doing that, make it official. Sign up as an Operation Barnabas congregation, okay? Get it done. You'll get a certificate, right? And your I love me wall, right? It's great. And be recognized. Your work is important, and we want to honor your work, not just here at your church, but as a whole. Also, any congregation that's close to doing all those things that I just mentioned, but would like to go a step further and be eligible, my challenge for you is do those 3 things and become eligible, and then register to become an Operation Barnabas congregation. Okay? And then my final challenge is it would be awesome if every circuit that has a military installation nearby or a large veteran population in its area. Okay? So if you and your circuit can think of, oh yeah, there's a military installation near us, or a large veteran population, get together and become an Operation Barnabas chapter. I think that would be fantastic. Like, I'm in the Dayton area, right? I am 5 minutes from Wright-Patterson, and I know that there are other sister congregations in our circuit where there are other military families that worship there, right? There is no reason why we can't have a Operation Barnabas chapter. So that is my challenge, is get involved with your sister congregations, because you might not be able to handle it alone, right? Especially if you're a part of a smaller congregation or your leadership is already stretched thin, right? But maybe as a group of congregations, you can come together and do something really amazing to serve our military members and their families. So yeah.
Can you give a plug for Deaconess Carolyn Brinkley with her military project?
Oh yeah. So there's a deaconess out of Fort Wayne that also provides like theological materials for chaplains in need. So the Missouri Synod office does provide portals of prayer. So I'm in the middle of Alabama, and I go on base, and I'm in the medical clinic, and what do I see? A huge stack of portals of prayer, right? But Catherine Brinkley goes a step further in that if a chaplain needs like hymnals or Lutheran service builder, she has funds to help provide for our chaplains throughout. Yep. So yeah, that's really good. Yeah. Any other thoughts or questions? I'm also just going to walk around. If you would like a sheet of paper for Operation Barnabas to either register or to get on your congregation to become eligible, just raise your hand and I'll come and get you here. All right. So yep. Question also. Just go ahead and shout it out. Yep.
Do you have a need for hymnals?
Not that I'm aware of. Personally, I've never been deployed. And actually what's really great is, a lot of things on base, right, are kind of electronic. Paper is kind of becoming, not as prevalent. Yeah. So Lutheran Service Builder is probably like the biggest thing that chaplains would need. And all they have to do is ask Catherine, and Deaconess Catherine, she provides. Yeah.
This may be beyond the time limit and everything.
Sure.
For you to answer now, but from time to time on the news, we hear things about restrictions on chaplains, what they can't do in counseling, what they can't say in a sermon.
Yeah.
How much of that is extreme and how much of that is real, and have you been impacted?
That's a fantastic question. I could talk all day on this. So the short answer is I can be because I am part of the Missouri Synod and I am endorsed by the Missouri Synod, I have what we call top cover, right? So I can be unabashedly Lutheran. So I can be as Lutheran as I want to be in most situations. Now, I also have to read the room, right? I'm not going to go out of my way to like bash Baptists, right? However, when I do children's sermons, like on base, I read from Luther's Small Catechism. And I have them recite the Apostles' Creed. For Pentecost, I had them recite the third article of the Apostles' Creed, repeat after me style. And we did the what does this mean, right? I'm Lutheran, right? Now, if it's a command-driven, like everyone is forced to be there kind of thing, then I'm probably just going to keep it pretty generically Christian, if that makes sense, right? But if someone willingly comes to me and gives me permission to tell me, to share my faith, I can go all day, right? Like if someone's counseling, someone's who, in a same-sex relationship and they are here for me for counseling, if they want to be affirmed in that, I'm going to ask that they seek someone else. But if they want my opinion and my stance, if they want to receive that from me, I can give that.
So does that mean you can't tell them it's a sin unless they allow you to tell them it's a sin?
In a case-to-case basis, that can happen. But they pretty much already know. If they already know, like I'm going to ask them, yep, I got to stop. But I'll talk to you about that one afterwards because we got to quit here. We'll talk about that one after if you got a few minutes. All right. Well, thank you so much. And also, if anyone has a pastor who might be interested in becoming a chaplain, I've got this here too. All right. Thank you so much for your time and attention.